Dr. Marcus Hale never liked being called suddenly. On Earth, he used to work in hospitals, where emergency calls meant blood, broken bones, and screaming patients. But here, on a massive alien warship drifting near the edge of Coalition space, the sudden call carried a different kind of weight. The Aelirian crew had been polite but distant ever since he was assigned as their human medical observer. He was a guest, but not really trusted. The tall, feathered aliens spoke in clipped tones and avoided meeting his eyes. He knew the truth. To them, humans were still newcomers to the galaxy, too young, too raw, and too primitive to be taken seriously. That was why, when the call came for him to report immediately to the commander's chamber, Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Something was wrong. He walked down the shining corridor, his boots clicking against the metallic floor. The ship's design always impressed him. High ceilings, soft glowing lights, and smooth curves everywhere, like the inside of a cathedral. The air smelled faintly metallic, with a dry coolness that reminded him of an operating room. Alien soldiers, in silver armor, stood at every junction, their sharp eyes tracking his movement. When Marcus entered the commander's private chamber, he found Commander Vela standing at the center of the room. She was taller than him by half a meter, her wings folded close to her back. Her feathers shimmered with silver and blue patterns, each strand lying neatly against the next. Her sharp, beak-like face betrayed no emotion, yet her piercing golden eyes seemed to see right through him. The chamber was silent, except for the soft hum of the ship's core running beneath their feet. Several alien officers stood in the shadows watching. "Human," Commander Vela said, her voice carrying the weight of command. "I insist you examine my body." The words struck Marcus like a thunderclap. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. Around him, the alien officers stirred, their wings rustling with unease. Some turned their heads sharply, others let out low hisses that sounded like disapproval. Marcus blinked. "Examine your body?" he repeated carefully. "Yes," Vela said, her golden eyes narrowing. "Something is wrong within me. Your kind may see what mine cannot." The silence grew heavier. Marcus's heart raced. In all his training, in all the briefings about alien culture, he had never been told what to do if a commander of an entire warship demanded a personal medical examination. One of the officers stepped forward, feathers flaring in irritation. "Commander, this is unnecessary. The humans' crude instruments cannot compare to our medical systems. Allow our physicians to continue the tests." Vela raised one wing sharply. The officer froze and fell silent. Her gaze never left Marcus. "I have decided," she said firmly. "The human will examine me." Marcus swallowed. He could feel the weight of a dozen alien eyes on him. If he refused, he would insult their commander and possibly all of Illyria. If he accepted and failed, he would confirm every alien suspicion that humans were weak and unworthy. But he had no choice. He stepped forward slowly, adjusting the small medical scanner he carried on his belt. "If that is your order, Commander, then I will do my best." The chamber transformed into a medical room within minutes. Vela lay on a long, reclining chair, wings spread out carefully to avoid damage. Her feathers gleamed under the overhead lights. The alien officers formed a half-circle around them, their expressions a mix of curiosity, suspicion, and silent hostility. Marcus set his scanner on a small table and pulled out several diagnostic tools. His hands shook slightly, but he forced himself to focus. He had faced dying patients before. He could handle this. "Please hold still," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Vela gave a slight nod. "Proceed, human." He moved the scanner across her chest, wings, and abdomen. The device beeped softly, projecting holographic images above its surface. At first, everything looked normal. Her skeletal structure was elegant, built for both strength and flight. Her heart beat strong, with a rhythm faster than any human's. Her lungs processed oxygen with incredible efficiency. But then Marcus frowned. Something was off. He adjusted the scanner, zooming in on her nervous system. Strange shadows appeared along the neural pathways, small clusters of something that did not belong. They pulsed faintly, as if alive. Marcus's stomach dropped. "What is it?" one of the officers demanded. "Speak, human!" Marcus hesitated. He could already sense the danger of his words. If he spoke too quickly, they would accuse him of lying. If he spoke too slowly, they would accuse him of hiding something. Finally, he said carefully, "Commander Vela, I believe you are carrying an unknown organism inside your nervous system." The chamber erupted in shocked noises, hisses, wing flutters, sharp words in the Illyrian language. One officer stepped forward aggressively. "Impossible! No such thing could survive in our bodies. The human fabricates lies to make himself appear important." Marcus stood firm, even though his heart pounded. He turned the hologram so they could all see. "Look here. These clusters don't match any natural tissue. They're feeding on her neural energy, slowly, quietly. That is why your own scanners miss them. They blend with the surrounding signals." The officers looked, but their faces hardened with doubt. "Commander," another officer said sternly, "allow me to escort this human back to his quarters. He spreads dangerous falsehoods." But Vela raised her wing again. Silence fell instantly. She studied the hologram carefully, then turned her golden gaze back to Marcus. "You are certain of this?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "Yes, I've seen similar patterns before, on Earth. Parasites that hide inside the host's body, feeding slowly until it's too late." For the first time, something flickered across Vela's sharp features. Fear. She closed her eyes briefly, then spoke in a low, commanding tone. "If I cannot trust a human now, then my people are already lost." The room fell completely silent. Even the air seemed to freeze. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, but none dared to speak against her. Marcus exhaled slowly. He knew what had just happened. Commander Vela had staked her life and her authority on him. That night, Marcus sat alone in the small guest, quarters the Illyrians had assigned him. He replayed the scene in his mind again and again. The images of the strange clusters haunted him. Parasites, yes, but not natural ones. Something about them felt engineered. He pulled up the data from his scanner and studied it under dim light. The clusters pulsed in strange rhythms, almost like coded signals. Not random growth, not nature, something designed. Marcus leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. If he was right, then this was more than a medical problem. This was a weapon. A soft chime at the door pulled him from his thoughts. He opened it to find Commander Vela standing there. She wore no armor, only a simple dark robe, but her presence still carried immense authority. "Human," she said quietly, "you believe you have discovered the truth. Do not hide it. Speak plainly to me." Marcus hesitated, then decided there was no point in lying. "Commander, I think this parasite was made, not by accident. Someone wanted this inside you." Her golden eyes narrowed. "For what purpose?" "To weaken you," Marcus said softly. "To break your leadership before a war begins." Vela stood in silence for a long moment. Then she turned her gaze toward the dark window, where distant stars shone like cold fire. At last, she said, "Then you will help me fight it. Human, from this moment you are no longer an observer. You are my physician." Marcus's throat went dry. He gave a small nod. "I'll do everything I can." Vela's golden eyes glowed faintly in the starlight. "Then let us see if humanity's courage is more than a rumor." The next morning, Marcus Hale woke to the sound of the ship's deep engines humming through the walls. His sleep had been short and restless. Strange dreams haunted him, visions of crawling shapes moving under feathers, of shadows whispering through alien veins. When he opened his eyes, the glow lights of his guest chamber greeted him with their pale silver light. He sat up, rubbed his face, and looked at the data again. The scans of Commander Vela's nervous system floated in a soft hologram above his wrist device. The parasite clusters pulsed faintly, like tiny hearts beating inside her. They looked wrong, artificial, too perfect. Marcus muttered to himself. This wasn't an accident. Someone put them there. A sharp chime sounded at his door. "Enter!" Marcus called. The door slid open, and two Aelirian guards stepped in, tall and stern with silver armor that gleamed in the light. Between them stood an officer Marcus had seen before. First Officer Silin! A sharp-eyed alien who always looked at Marcus like he was an insect. "The commander requests your presence in the medbay," Silin said coldly. His golden feathers were flared in irritation. "She insists you continue your human methods." Marcus felt the sting of that tone, but he stood calmly. "Then I'll come." The guards flanked him as he walked through the corridor. Everywhere he passed, alien crew members turned to stare. Their faces were unreadable, but he could feel their doubt, their suspicion, their fear. He was an outsider, carrying the fate of their commander in his hands. The medbay was vast and shining, filled with strange equipment that glowed with soft blue light. Alien physicians stood at control panels, their wings folded tightly as they worked. At the center of the room, Commander Vela rested on a diagnostic table. She was awake, her wings folded neatly, but her posture was tense. When Marcus entered, all eyes turned toward him. "Human," Vela said. Her voice was calm, but Marcus could hear the strain in it. "Begin your work." Marcus nodded. He sat, his human scanner beside the Aelirian machines. Already he could see the differences. Their equipment focused on large-scale systems, checking strength, heart rhythm, wing structure, energy balance. But none of it looked deep enough to notice. The parasites. He activated his scanner again and ran it carefully across Vela's chest, neck, and spine. The hologram filled the room with faint blue light. "There," Marcus said, pointing. "Clusters along the neural spine. They pulse in rhythm, almost like they're communicating." The alien physicians leaned closer. They studied the hologram, with narrowed eyes. One of them, a gray-feathered elder, shook his head. "This is trickery. The human's device is primitive. Those shapes are noise, nothing more." Marcus clenched his jaw. He knew they wouldn't believe him easily. Noise doesn't repeat with this much order. Look, each cluster is identical, down to the smallest structure. Nature doesn't do that, but engineering does. Vela's golden eyes fixed on the hologram. She saw the truth in his words. Slowly, she lifted her hand and pointed at the elder physician. "Silence. The human speaks, and I will listen." The medbay went quiet. Marcus continued. "These things, they're like parasites we've seen on Earth. But there's one difference. They don't just feed, they transmit. See this pulse? It's like a signal, passing from one cluster to the next." The room darkened slightly as Marcus magnified the scan. The parasite clusters glowed faintly, connected by thin lines of energy. It looked like a web spreading across her nervous system. A ripple of unease moved through the alien physicians. "Then what is their purpose?" First Officer Silin demanded. Marcus hesitated. "If I had to guess, they're designed to weaken. Slowly. To drain energy, disrupt the nerves, cause failure at the worst possible moment. Your commander wouldn't fall suddenly. She'd fall when it mattered most, when she needed her strength." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. One young physician spoke, voice trembling. "That is a weapon." "Yes," Marcus said softly, and whoever made it knew exactly what they were doing. The revelations spread through the crew like fire. Rumors traveled faster than the ship's engines. Everywhere Marcus went, he felt their eyes on him. Some were filled with fear, others with anger. Many whispered behind him, feathers rustling in sharp tones. In the mess hall that evening, Marcus sat alone, pushing food around on his tray. He wasn't hungry. He could feel the stares of alien crew members around him. First Officer Silent entered the room, tall and stern as always. He walked directly to Marcus's table and slammed his clawed hand down. The hall went silent. "You," Silent growled, "speak of poisons and weapons, but I see only a human seeking to prove himself. Why should we believe you?" Marcus looked up slowly. His voice was calm but firm. "Because your commander already believes me, and because I'm right." Silent leaned closer, his feathers bristling. "If you are wrong, human, if this is a trick, then your life will end before the next star rises." Marcus met his golden eyes without flinching. "Then I'll make sure I'm not wrong." The hall stayed silent as Silent turned and left, his feathers snapping behind him. Later that night, Commander Vela called Marcus to her private chamber again. The room was dim, lit only by the stars outside the wide window. She stood tall, but there was a faint weariness in her posture. "You understand the danger, human," she said. "If what you say is true, then someone has targeted me. And not only me. Others of my kind may carry the same infection." Marcus nodded. "That's what I'm afraid of. If this is a weapon, it won't be used on just one commander. It'll spread, quietly, until your whole fleet is weak." Her golden eyes narrowed. "You believe the Krith are behind this?" Marcus hesitated. The Krith were a hostile species, infamous for their cruelty. They used strange weapons, biological plagues, and traps that other species thought impossible. He remembered hearing whispers of their experiments in secret labs. "Yes," Marcus said. "It matches their style. And if I'm right, then war is coming." Vela turned back to the stars, her wings shifting slightly. "My people have always thought of humans as children among the stars, too young, too untested, too fragile. But today you see what our own eyes could not." She faced him again, her gaze sharp and heavy. "Human, will you continue this fight with me?" Marcus felt the weight of her words. He wasn't just a doctor now. He was stepping into something larger, a conflict that could shake entire worlds. "I will," he said quietly, "because if this parasite spreads, it won't stop with you. It will come for everyone, including us." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Only the stars watched, silent and endless. Finally, Vela extended one wing slightly, a gesture of trust among her kind. "Then from this moment, Marcus Hale, you are not merely an observer. You are my ally." Marcus gave a small nod. "Then let's find a way to fight this thing." The next day, the ship's laboratories opened to Marcus. Alien scientists stood by as he compared their technology with his human equipment. It was a strange sight. Sleek alien machines beside his rugged, Earth-built tools, so simple by comparison. Yet it was his scanner that revealed the hidden truth. Hours turned into days. Marcus studied the parasite clusters carefully, running simulations, mapping their patterns. The more he learned, the more certain he became. The clusters weren't random, they were programmed. Each pulse carried coded instructions, guiding the parasite's growth and ensuring it could not be detected by alien machines. But human tools, built from centuries of battling Earth's countless diseases, saw what alien machines could not. At one point, an alien scientist muttered in disbelief, "Humans, you survive surrounded by so many enemies on your world. Bacteria, viruses, parasites. Perhaps that curse is also your gift." Marcus didn't answer, but inside he knew it was true. Humanity had been forged in struggle. And now, that struggle might save more than just one species. As the chapter closed, Marcus sat in the lab staring at the glowing image of the parasite clusters. His eyes were tired, but his mind was sharp. He knew the next step would be dangerous. To fight the parasite, he would need to test treatments directly on Vela. It would be a gamble. A human gamble. The ship drifted silently through the void, its silver hull reflecting the faint glow of distant stars. Inside the laboratories, Dr. Marcus Hale worked without rest. He had spent 2 days studying the parasite within Commander Vela's body, comparing data, running simulations, and drawing patterns on his screen. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his mind was sharp. Each time he looked at the parasite clusters, he saw the same truth. They were alive, but not natural. They were machines grown from flesh, coded to hide and spread. The closer he studied, the more he realized that this was not just a disease. It was a weapon, carefully built to cripple leaders from the inside out. The Krith. The name hissed in his mind like poison. He had read about them in coalition briefings. An enemy, species with no mercy who preferred biological traps to open battles. They had used plagues on other worlds, twisting life into weapons, and now Marcus was sure they were doing the same to the Aelirians. But the aliens didn't see it. They had lived for millennia in near-perfect health, with advanced medicine. That erased disease before it could even spread. They had no history of fighting parasites, no memory of viruses, no scars from survival. Humans did. On Earth, survival had always been a war. Against nature, against sickness, against enemies too. Small to see, humanity had learned the hard way through centuries of suffering. That pain had shaped them, given them tools no alien ever thought of, and now, for the first time, that curse of human history was a gift. Marcus stood in front of the hologram display as Commander Vela entered the lab. She looked strong, but he could see the faint stiffness in her movements, the subtle wince when the parasite pulsed in her nerves. Her golden eyes were calm, but behind them was the sharp edge of pain. "Human," she said, her voice steady. "What have you learned?" Marcus gestured to the display. The glowing image of her nervous system filled the air, marked with clusters of red light. "These things. They're linked. They pass signals back and forth. They don't just feed on you, they're building a network." Vela frowned. "For what purpose?" Marcus hesitated. "If I'm right, they're waiting. For a signal. When it comes, they'll activate together. Maybe to kill. Maybe to disable. Either way, you'll fall when they want you to." The silence was heavy. Vela's officers, standing nearby, shifted uneasily. First Officer Silen's feathers flared in anger. "Then cut them out. Burn them. Why do we waste time with this? Humans' theories?" Marcus turned sharply. "Because if we act without care, you'll kill her faster. These things are tied to her nerves. One wrong move, and she won't survive." The alien officers bristled, but Vela raised her wing and silenced them. Her golden eyes stayed on Marcus. "Can you stop them?" Marcus took a deep breath. "Maybe. I've seen something like this before. On Earth. Parasites that invade the brain, worms that coil in muscles, viruses that trick the body into ignoring them. We've fought them for centuries. We have methods." "Methods?" Silen sneered. "Your crude needles and chemicals?" Marcus ignored him. "Yes, crude, but they work. And sometimes, crude is exactly what you need against something this stubborn." Vela studied him for a long time. Then she nodded. "Then prepare your method. I will submit to it." The officers gasped in shock. One stepped forward. Voice sharp. "Commander, you cannot. To trust this human with untested medicine, this is madness." But Vela's voice cut through the room like steel. "If I cannot trust him, then I am already dead." Her words silenced them all. Marcus set to work. He pulled up records of old human treatments, Antivirals, antiparasitics, even crude poisons designed to kill invaders faster than they killed the host. His Earth-built scanner gave him a clear map of the parasite's structure. It was tough, shielded, designed to resist, but it was still alive, and that meant it could be destroyed. He worked with the alien scientists, who watched with doubt but also curiosity. They had never seen medicines that acted on such a small scale. Their tools were made for broken bones, torn wings, energy imbalances, not for hidden invaders, one young alien whispered as Marcus mixed chemical samples. Humans. You fight invisible enemies as if they are beasts. You hunt them. Marcus gave a tired smile. That's because for us, they were always beasts, just smaller. Hours later, the treatment was ready. A mix of human-designed compounds, altered, with alien energy stabilizers. It was dangerous, untested, and unpredictable, but it was the only chance. In the medbay, Vela lay on the diagnostic table once again. The crew gathered around, silent and tense. Marcus stood beside her, holding the injector filled with the glowing liquid. He looked into her golden eyes. This will hurt. It might make things worse before it gets better. Are you sure you want to do this? Vela's beak-like face was calm. I am a commander of the Illyrian fleet. If I cannot face pain, then I am unworthy to command. Do it, human. Marcus nodded. He pressed the injector to her neck and pushed. The liquid entered her veins. Instantly her body tensed. Her wings flared wide, her claws dug into the table, and a low cry escaped her throat. The parasite clusters lit up on the hologram, pulsing wildly as if resisting the attack. Hold her steady, Marcus shouted. Alien physicians rushed forward, restraining her arms and wings. Her body shook violently, and her golden eyes burned with pain. The parasites pulsed brighter, their network sparking with strange energy. They're fighting back, Marcus muttered. Good. Let them. The hologram flickered with chaos. Clusters expanded, then shrank, then flared again. Marcus adjusted the treatment, increasing the dose. Sweat dripped down his face as he watched. Come on, he whispered. Break, break. Then suddenly one cluster dimmed. It flickered, spasmed, and collapsed into nothing. Another followed, then another. On the table, Vela gasped, her body arching as the parasites died one by one. The hologram lit up with flashes of collapse. The network was breaking. Marcus's heart pounded. He leaned closer to the display, guiding the treatment, adjusting the energy stabilizers. One by one, the clusters died, their signals fading into silence. And then, nothing. The hologram showed only her nervous system. Clear. Clean. It was over. The medbay was silent. Vela lay still, breathing heavily, her feathers damp with sweat. Her golden eyes opened slowly and fixed on Marcus. You did it, she whispered. Marcus let out a long breath and smiled faintly. No, we did it. Your strength kept you alive. The alien officers stared in shock. First Officer Silen's feathers were tight against his body, his eyes wide with disbelief. The elder physician whispered almost reverently, The human saved her. Slowly, the silence broke. The crew began to murmur, their voices filled with awe instead of doubt. For the first time, Marcus felt not suspicion, but respect in their eyes. Vela pushed herself up, weak but alive. She looked around at her officers, her voice steady though her body trembled. You doubted him, but this human saw what we could not. He fought where we failed. Remember this. Her gaze returned to Marcus. From this day, you are not an outsider. You are my physician and my ally. Marcus bowed his head. Then I'll keep fighting, Commander, until we find every answer. That night, As Marcus sat in his quarters, exhaustion weighing on him, he looked at the scans again. The parasites were gone, yes, but he couldn't ignore one detail. Before dying, the clusters had pulsed with strange energy, almost like a message, a signal. He shivered. If the Krith had been watching, then they now knew. Their weapon had failed. The Illyrian warship drifted through dark space, its engines humming quietly. Commander Vela stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars, her wings folded tightly against her back. She was still weak from the parasite treatment, but her mind was sharp. She had survived what none of her kind thought possible, and that survival had a human name attached to it. Marcus Hale. The bridge crew was tense. For days, rumors had spread among the officers that the Krith were planning an attack. The parasites were only the beginning. Now, every sensor ping, every anomaly, sent the officers into a flurry of panic. Marcus entered the bridge quietly, carrying his scanner and a small kit of human medical tools. He had not slept in over 48 hours, but he walked with the calm confidence that had won Vela's trust. "Human," Vela said softly, turning her golden eyes toward him. "I need your assessment. Are we ready for what is coming?" Marcus looked at the star maps on the holographic display. "We're as ready as we can be, but the Krith won't just attack openly. They'll strike where we are weakest, through sabotage, infiltration, and biological weapons. We need to think beyond their ships." First Officer Silent flared his feathers. "And you expect us to follow the advice of a human? One who has not faced war like we have?" Marcus met his eyes steadily. "I don't ask for blind trust. I ask for observation. Watch me. If I'm wrong, then I'll admit it. But if I'm right, then you'll see your people survive because of a human's knowledge. And because humans see things your technology cannot." Vela's golden eyes flicked to Silent, who bristled. Finally, she raised her wing. "We will observe. Human, you will lead this effort alongside my command. Prepare the fleet for what may come." The next hours were filled with preparation. Marcus worked side by side with the alien physicians, teaching them to detect hidden threats, to identify subtle anomalies in ship systems, and even to adjust their medical protocols to defend against engineered parasites or viruses. The crew, though skeptical at first, gradually began to follow his instructions. Marcus explained carefully. "Humans survived countless plagues, wars, and disasters on Earth. Every disease taught us a lesson. Every enemy forced us to adapt. That history is our advantage. We know how to survive when everything seems impossible." The alien physicians looked at him in disbelief. One muttered, "They call this courage, but perhaps it is wisdom as well." Hours later, Vela called Marcus to the command deck. "Human, I need you to assess our defense readiness. If the Krith attack tonight, we must respond with precision. Your methods must work alongside our technology." Marcus nodded. He began reviewing the fleet maps, tracing potential attack points. "If I'm correct, they'll avoid a direct assault. They'll attempt to cripple command and medical ships first. If we protect them, the rest of the fleet can survive." Vela leaned forward. "Then show us the way." As the ship approached the edge of Krith-controlled space, alarms suddenly rang through the vessel. The sensors were picking up multiple fast-moving contacts. Marcus ran to the nearest display, his scanner scanning the signals. "They're here," he said, voice calm but tense. "Multiple Krith vessels, small and fast. They're avoiding detection and coming in stealth formation. They may be preparing a biological strike." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos. Officers shouted orders, wings flared, and engines adjusted for evasive maneuvers. Vela stood at the center, her calm presence guiding the crew, while Marcus moved through the deck, advising the engineers and medical staff. "Prepare antidotes for potential biological attacks," Marcus instructed. "Contain all environmental systems. Isolate every crew compartment." Silent, watching closely, finally spoke. "The human, his methods make sense. Perhaps he sees more than we do." Marcus gave a small nod. "Observation first, Reaction second. That's what survival is. The Krith fleet struck without warning. Tiny, sleek ships darted through space, trying to avoid sensors. Marcus and the Aelirians watched as energy pulses streaked toward the human ship. Some hit shields, others were intercepted by rapid countermeasures. But then, something worse appeared. Small pods drifting silently, designed to attach to the hull. Marcus scanned them immediately. His breath caught. "They're delivering parasites," he said. "Weapons similar to what was inside Vela. If they breach our defenses, it could infect anyone." Vela's wings lifted slightly, signaling attack. Formation. "Marcus, we must act. Your knowledge is critical. Tell us what to do." Marcus moved quickly, instructing engineers to use heat fields and energy pulses to neutralize the pods. Target the hull attachments first, then deploy disinfectant aerosols in all internal decks. If any breach, isolate it immediately. Do not allow the Krith to reach the medical or command bays. The officers, though skeptical at first, followed his instructions. Slowly, Marcus's strategy began to work. Pods were destroyed before reaching critical areas. The Krith fleet was slowed, their attack becoming chaotic. Hours passed in tense silence, broken by alarms. Marcus never left Vela's side, guiding the ship's crew and medical staff. Occasionally, he checked her condition, though she had survived. The parasites, the strain of command, and recent treatment left her weak. "Human," she said quietly. "You have saved my life twice now, once from the parasite and once from this attack. How is it that your people survive when others cannot?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Survival is all we have. Every crisis taught us something. Every threat we survived made us stronger. That's why we endure." Vela's golden eyes softened. "Then perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long." Marcus looked at her, sensing the gravity of her words. Humans were not invincible, but their resilience, born from countless struggles, was a strength no alien could fully anticipate. By the end of the battle, the Krith fleet retreated, defeated by a combination of Aelirian firepower and Marcus's strategic guidance. The bridge crew stood in stunned silence. Vela straightened her posture, wings folding neatly, and addressed her officers. "Observe this carefully," she said, her voice strong despite her exhaustion. "A human saw what we could not. He guided us to survive when survival seemed impossible. Remember this lesson. Humans are not weak. They are extraordinary." The officers exchanged glances, some nodding slowly, some still in disbelief. But one thing was clear. Respect for Marcus had replaced doubt. Later, in the medbay, Marcus checked Vela's condition again. She was recovering steadily, though still pale. "You see now," he said softly, "why your people needed humans. We don't just fight with weapons. We fight with insight, adaptation, and experience that comes from surviving countless impossible threats." Vela looked at him, her eyes shining with trust. "Yes, human. You are no longer an observer. You are my ally, and the galaxy is better because of you." As the ship drifted quietly through space once more, Marcus reflected on the past days. Humans were often underestimated, dismissed as fragile or primitive. Yet time and again, their resilience, their courage, and their knowledge of survival had made them indispensable. And now, in this moment, the galaxy itself was beginning to see the truth. When humans fought, they did not merely survive, they could save others, even entire species, in ways no one had expected. Outside the ship, the stars continued to shine, cold and distant. But inside, Marcus felt the warmth of purpose and respect. The battle had been won, but the war with the Krith was far from over. And when the next threat came, humans would be ready to fight alongside their new allies, resilient, clever, and unstoppable in their determination to endure. The void of space stretched endlessly before the Aelirian warship, silent but for the hum of its engines. Commander Vela stood on the bridge, her golden eyes fixed on the distant stars. Though her body was recovering from the parasite attack, her mind was sharper than ever. The Krith were still out there, lurking beyond sensor range, planning their next strike. Beside her, Marcus Hale adjusted his human scanner, reviewing the data from the last battle. Every pod the Krith had launched, every parasite they had tried to deploy, had been defeated by his methods combined with the Aelirian technology. Yet he knew this would not be their final encounter. The Krith were patient, cruel, and relentless. "We need a plan," Marcus said softly. "They'll strike again, and this time they'll adapt. They'll try to exploit any weakness we have." Vela nodded. "Then we shall prepare. But this time we will not only defend, we will take the fight to them." The next hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Marcus worked tirelessly, guiding alien engineers to modify their ship's shields, develop countermeasures for parasite deployment, and improve the fleet's communications. He combined human ingenuity with alien technology, creating a hybrid strategy that neither species could have achieved alone. "The Krith won't expect this," Marcus explained to Vela. "They think in fleets, in brute force. Humans think in networks, traps, and unpredictability. We'll hit them where it hurts. First, their supply lines. Second, their biological weapons labs." Vela listened closely, wings folded neatly behind her. "Your insight has already saved me and my ship. Then we will follow your lead." First Officer Silent, standing silently beside them, finally spoke. "I doubted you at first, human. But now I see. Your mind is sharper than any sensor. Your courage, unmatched." Marcus gave a faint smile. "Thank you, Silent. But courage alone doesn't win battles. Planning, timing, and knowledge win battles." By the next day, the fleet had formed a blockade near Krith-controlled space. Small stealth ships, equipped with Marcus's modified detection systems, patrolled the perimeter. The main Aelirian warships, led by Vela's flagship, were ready to strike. Marcus walked among the crew, offering guidance, adjusting equipment, and teaching them how to respond to hidden threats. "Remember," he told them, "humans survive by expecting the unexpected. You must anticipate their moves, not just react. To them, observe everything: signals, pods, energy fluctuations. One detail can save lives." The Aelirians, who had once doubted him, now followed his instructions with trust. They began to see the human perspective as a critical advantage. Hours passed in tense silence, until finally the Krith fleet appeared. Their ships were faster, sleeker, and more numerous than before. Pods carrying parasites drifted in stealth formations, almost invisible to conventional sensors. The Krith had clearly adapted from their last failure. Vela's flagship activated shields, and Marcus moved quickly among the tactical stations. "Focus on the pods first, then neutralize the ships. Use everything we've prepared. Don't let a single parasite breach the hull." As the Krith advanced, Marcus's strategy unfolded. Small teams of stealth ships intercepted the parasite pods, neutralizing them with heat pulses and energy disruptors. Meanwhile, hybrid weapons designed by humans and Aelirians targeted Krith supply vessels, cutting off reinforcements. The Krith seemed confident, but Marcus's tactics were unlike anything they had faced. Every attack they launched was anticipated and countered. Every pod neutralized, every ship trapped. Slowly, the Krith began to falter. Suddenly, an alert flashed on Marcus's scanner. One Krith ship had slipped through the blockade and was heading directly for Vela's flagship. Marcus's heart pounded. If it reached the ship, it could deploy a new type of parasite, one that no human or Aelirian medicine had yet encountered. "Commander," Marcus shouted, "that ship must be stopped. I have a plan. Trust me." Vela nodded sharply. "Do it, human! We are with you." Marcus directed a squadron of Aelirian fighters to intercept the Krith vessel, while he modified the ships, energy fields to create a pulse that would neutralize the parasite before it could enter the hull. The countdown was tense. Every second could mean disaster. The Krith ship fired its pod launchers. Pods drifted silently toward the flagship. Marcus activated the energy pulse just in time. The pods were neutralized, vaporizing in midair before they could reach the hull. The Krith vessel, seeing its plan fail, attempted a retreat. But Marcus's modified targeting system locked onto it, disabling its engines and forcing its surrender. The bridge erupted into controlled celebration. Vela looked at Marcus with awe. "Human, you have done it. You have saved this ship and our fleet." Marcus shook his head. "We did it. Together. Your people fought brilliantly. But never forget, it is the combination of human insight and Illyrian strength that won." This day, as the battle raged on around them, Marcus continued to coordinate defenses, guide strikes, and treat any wounded immediately. He moved like a conductor, directing the symphony of chaos with calm precision. Alien officers, once skeptical, now followed his instructions without hesitation. They witnessed firsthand how human experience, drawn from centuries of survival, could tip the scales in a galaxy-wide conflict. Even First Officer Silin, standing at the tactical console, admitted silently that he had underestimated humans. Marcus's strategies were unconventional, yet they worked. His courage inspired the crew, his knowledge saved lives, and his decisions had prevented catastrophe. By the time the final Krith ship surrendered, the Illyrian fleet had won a decisive victory. The Krith were forced to retreat from the region, their biological attacks nullified, their ships damaged, and their morale shattered. Vela stood on the bridge, wings folded neatly, and addressed her officers. "Observe this carefully. A human has guided us through disaster, saved countless lives, and defeated an enemy we feared. Remember his methods, his courage, and his wisdom. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is extraordinary." Marcus, standing beside her, felt the weight of her words. For years, humans had been underestimated across the galaxy. Now, for the first time, an entire alien fleet recognized their value, not for brute strength, but for ingenuity, resilience, and courage. Later, in the medbay, Vela finally allowed herself a moment of rest. Marcus checked her condition carefully. Her wounds had healed. The strain of the parasite and the battle still weighed on her, but she was alive and strong. "You see, human," she said softly, her golden eyes meeting his. "Your people survive when others fail. You endure when others collapse. You have proven your worth beyond doubt." Marcus smiled. "We survive because we have no choice. Every challenge teaches us something. Every enemy makes us stronger. That's humanity." Vela's feathers ruffled slightly, a gesture of quiet respect. "Then humanity will fight beside us in the galaxy. Together, we will face any threat." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of pride he had never known on Earth. He was not just a visitor on an alien ship. He was a trusted ally, a leader in the fight to protect the galaxy. As the fleet moved through space, repairing, regrouping, and preparing for future threats, Marcus looked out at the stars. He knew the Krith would return, but now humanity's value was clear. Not through weapons alone, not through raw power, but through insight, courage, and the will to survive against impossible odds. For the first time, Marcus felt the truth of the stories humans told themselves for centuries. When humans fight, they do not merely endure, they inspire, protect, and change the course of history. And in that moment, surrounded by alien allies who had once doubted him, Marcus understood something profound. Humans were no longer observers in the galaxy. They were protectors, warriors. And sometimes, when the galaxy seemed lost, it was human courage and wisdom that would save it. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent and cold. But inside, The Illyrian flagship, hope burned brighter than any weapon. Humans had proven their place among the stars, and the galaxy would never forget it.